This is Leaf Life. All things cannabis for all people. Now, Ricker and the Bearded Lorax.
We publish a free magazine called The Leaf that's available in print in 14 states. It's a magazine. Pick it up. It's at your local cannabis retailer. And also available online. Every single magazine we print, almost 500 at leafmagazines.com. I'm Mike Ricker, your host of Leaf Life, co-owner of The Leaf with my co-owner, co-host, Wes Abney, also known as the Bearded Lorax.
I speak for the trees.
And of course, there's AJOG.
Hola, aloha OGs.
And Tori D sitting in for Mary J. White today.
Oh, hello.
All right. Today's weed is not the same weed Grandpa had 50 years ago. Where the original strains have laid the foundation, it's new technology and hype that fuel this new generation of growers who masterfully crossbreed genetics to satisfy their wild imaginations. This is Strains of Cannabis.
Plant scientists.
Ooh.
Our first segment, Phenohunt or Be Phenohunted.
Let's go.
And our second segment, Variety is the Spice. But before we get educated, we've got to get medicated, so let's get stoned.
Ah, yeah. Let's go.
Well, wherever your days led you, now it's time to fire up, chew up, or drink up. It's time to get in the mood. Get stoned as we introduce this show's Greg the Guinea Pig.
Hi, I'm Greg, and Ricker used to try his weed out on me. But now it's someone else's turn to be the guinea pig.
All right, so he was on our previous show called Phenohunting. Ben Davis is the owner of FREDDY'S FUEGO Cannabis Company in Washington State and an extremely reputable Phenohunter. It's all about the strains, huh, Ben?
It's all about the genetics, you know? It's the variety is the spice of life, and you go through, you smoke this, you smoke that, you fall in love. Well, a year later, that thing you fell in love with, it's not as powerful to you because you know her so well. So you have to continue down that family tree and find a beautiful cross where it's that same old thing you love, but a new variety now.
Show's over, guys. We're good.
Yes.
That's it. That's basically said it all we need to hear. It's right there coming out of Ben's mouth. Except we got to get him high and change things up. So let's spin AJ's wheel to see what's in AJ's stash.
Let's go, you guys. All right, we're going to... all right. Look at this fancy packaging. It's beautiful. Okay, so we have a single source live resin vape pen. Here we go. I'm excited to vape this because live resin is the best. It's going to hit nice. This is from Cream of the Crop out of California. And it's actually their Georgia Peaches strain. Ooh.
Nice.
It looks like the lineage is Gelati times Cushman's. And I forgot that we actually got you here in the house to try it. So I was like, ooh, I'm going to put this in my mouth right now.
Easy, AJ.
You can hit it too.
AJ. Take care of the guest first. Look, she's all hopping up and down. She's all anxious. Want to try the Georgia Peaches. What is it? Peach what?
Georgia Peach.
Peach, yeah.
It's Georgia Peach, and the strain cross is actually from their lineage, their in-house lineage, Gelati times Cushman's.
I get my peaches down in Georgia.
Ooh.
I get my weed in California.
Oh, yeah, baby.
That's some power.
Yeah?
yeah.
fire?
Some powerful resin, eh?
I mean, that Cushman's, you know, you get that Bubba Kush and that Cushman's cross.
Yeah.
You get a lot of power, man.
Word.
Terps like good.
Yep.
But some power.
My gentleman. You know, you mentioned there a moment ago how, you know, phenohunting is kind of like, you know, meeting a partner, someone you love, and you have, you know, a relationship with it, and a year later you got to you're about to have your fourth child. Somebody, you know, I didn't know if you were talking about being a human being or being a phenohunter.
Well, you know, I think I want to see a little bit more 80-90%, you know, my genetics than my wife, because she's been cleaning up, I feel like, these last few. So I'm like, maybe if we have another baby, we'll get like an 80-90% me version.
Good geez.
Human phenohunt.
Well, you've got a child named Apollo, and that's your only boy. And no, you've got two boys.
Jason Apollo.
Jason Apollo, gotcha. And the new one's a girl, right?
Gwendolyn Giselle Davis.
Jesus,
wow.
Baby Gigi.
Word up.
Gigi.
Yeah.
And what's the others'
Beautiful.
names?
Jenna is my oldest.
Okay.
And so she's she's 13 now.
Oh my
she's
God.
no longer
Wow.
like dad's little girl.
Yeah.
Now she's like trying to be
Wes
an
is
adult.
going through the same thing.
Yeah, 13 and 15.
Ooh.
Ay, ay,
And the
ay.
other boy's name?
The other boy's Jace.
Oh, gotcha.
Jason
Apollo. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair.
And if we have a third boy, Achilles, man, because Apollo and Achilles from like
Oh, you're going
naming
for-
so many genetics, like that would just
Yeah.
be dope to have those two in the same room.
You going for 5 kids?
I love this.
I can't stop pheno-hunting, man. I'm addicted,
I
bro.
love.
Well, bro, it's pheno-hunt or be pheno-hunted. And as we
Hey,
shift
straight up.
to strains of cannabis, that really is the telltale of a strong company. Is what genetics are they getting and turning into gold? And genetics is what it's all about. The best breeders out there are the rock stars of today's cannabis world.
Anybody who's ran a business, that human capital, genetics, but then with cannabis, plant genetics, you know, and I think when you focus on both, and Freddy's has, you know, we've put so much time and effort into being a small, close-knit family unit that runs a company, and as well as with our main focus on plant genetics, because when you if you live in Seattle or you visit Seattle and Washington State, you know we're a foodie area.
Yes.
And you go to all these different menus and there's all this different swag and the garnishments, the accompaniments, you know, the flavors to be complementary with the other flavors. And cannabis needs to be a lot more like the food industry, where it's very complementary and this can mix and match with this. And when I look at genetics, I see that as the building block for like the bougie swag in cannabis, where you can really like hone in on your flavors and your mixing and matching.
Well, cannabis already has a linear kind of appeal to the food industry because you get a lot of Skittles, a lot of runts, a lot of cheese, a lot of strains that are named after food.
Desserts, people love dessert weed. Like, and I think those names are really hot right now. Like, if you bring in some sort of, you know, beautiful French, you know, swaggy dessert, man, like if I'm pheno-hunting, that might become the next name.
What was the California strain that just got the cease and desist for being named after
French
a famous?
Laundry.
That was the one.
My guys at Maven.
French Laundry.
French Laundry. I
didn't see that coming.
I'm friends with Shane Ponto, one of the owners.
Okay.
I just saw him last week, and I said, Shane, you should change the F in French to a V, because Maven is their logo, and the V is like all over their packaging. They make it French Laundry with a V, and what they did,
Laundry.
they went
French
formerly known as French Laundry, is what they ended up coming up with. So it's FKAFL.
Great pivot.
Like GG4 instead of Gorilla Glue number 4,
Yeah.
which
You get
was shut
worried.
down by, you know, the real Gorilla Glue.
Yeah.
It's
GG.
you
Oh.
can't just
I guess I
call
didn't know
something
that.
Oreos
Well, it's copyright.
with an
I'm just
S,
learning
and
that
that's
one.
why everything has a Z
Yeah.
in the weed world.
Yeah.
Because we got to add
Skittles.
that pizzazz.
Skittles,
Skittles.
and Zazas and Zzzs and za.
We just hunted this new Kawasaki, which is it's an original Skittles plant crossed with runts. So it's the Zrunts. And it's super, super fire crossed RS11. And so it's taking these building blocks that are super trendy right now, like RS11 and runts, but then going back historically to a place like Skittles that's, you know, very difficult grow, very finicky plant, incredible terpene profile. Well, let's combine that terpene profile into something that's, you know, an RS11 that has great shape and form that sells so well in packs on the street or in eighth jars on the shelf. And so you're taking that Skittles terpene profile, and it's something new that I'm working on called Kawasaki, and it's Skittles, runts, and RS11. And you get the new with the old for something brand new.
How important is it
Sounds
for a
fire.
farm to have trendy names and new strains? Because I don't see, I mean, even green crack isn't that old. It's like 10 years, maybe 15 years old. But the Hindu Kushes, the Panama Reds, the OG strains, you don't see them as much anymore. And I'll tell you something. There were certain strains that got me to my happy fucking place, bro. And I don't need it fucked with, right? But now it's been crossed 18 times and it's not the same, and I can't get it anymore. I got to have the new Fruity Pebbles or whatever the new strain is.
A traditionalist, you know, having some of those pure landrace strains, they do exist in remote parts of the world, because ultimately if there's not a lot of planes or trains or people or transport going to those remote regions, you're going to be able to preserve some of those genetics that some old school people like. But the more and more everything has sex, all of a sudden one day you're going to look up and you're going to be like, well, a few of those aren't around anymore.
Yeah.
And so preservation projects have always happened in all of like biology where people are trying to preserve. So, you know, it's going to be hard to really delete something from cannabis history with so many people preserving. But it's super possible. It's kind of weird to think about, huh? That like that genetic might not ever exist for this group of people.
I guess it's like music. Dudes aren't making gangster rap like they did in the 90s. And people aren't, you know, making records like Boston and frickin' the Rolling Stones in the 60s and 70s. Music evolves. Art evolves, as does the strains, as do the strains in cannabis.
I think cannabis, like, because also it regenerates so quickly, you know, that's part of why these like genetic profiles become at risk, you know. I was actually recently watching some of Arjon's old material from Strain Hunters, and he was in Trinidad, and the grower there was saying like, well, we'll cultivate on this land for 3 years, and then after that we leave her alone for 5, you know. And I was like, whoa. And then he expanded, you know, well, that's the Rastafari way because it keeps the balance. The mother needs her time to rest, this and that. Like there's much land in the mountain, so they move, you know. But it's like to keep everything mineralized. Well, that's the way that you can keep strong strains. They got to have that same mineral compound in the soil and the environment, right, throughout their life. And as soon as that starts to deplete, the strain starts to deplete, and you start to lose that strong profile. So yeah, I think it's very unique because the plant is evolving so quickly, and it just like rapid regeneration.
What do people want in the plant? Because you'll see the plant go to the will of the people. Like in the 70s and 80s, when people started selling a lot of weed from home grows, they started growing strains that didn't smell that loud so they wouldn't be caught. So then you see all of a sudden like 70% of California weed, which, you know, is 70% of the world's weed, being like less smelly strains that have super high potency to avoid, you know, this issue of being caught by the cops.
That haze, BC bud that just didn't really smell that strong, but it would get you high. I think a lot of this too is the evolution of legality. And, you know, when prohibition was in place for alcohol, you would just get like hooch. You know, you didn't find your guy and be like,
comparison.
Why don't you have a brown lager and why don't you have an IPA? You were just like, can I get some moonshine?
He's like, this shit's gonna fuck you up right here.
You might be blind.
Hey,
but,
fella,
you know,
let me get a bit of that hooch.
Exactly. But people weren't breeding in the 70s, 80s, and 90s the way they are today, because breeding, you have to have tons of plants, you have to have a lot of space, a lot of time, and you grow plants that you don't end up keeping, that you want to cull, because you're searching, you might, you know, grow 100 plants to keep one.
Get thrown away in phenohunting. Wow. You know, you're looking for a percentage of a percentage in that process, and
you can't
it's
do
hard
that
to sell it. It's
when
hard
it's illegal. And that's not your motivation either. So I think that, and when I've interviewed old breeders and old growers, it was risky to make a new strain. And back then there wasn't the demand for a strain. It was just the demand for weed. So it didn't really matter what weed you had as long as you had it to sell. So now we have this era, and we're seeing it. I've seen it in the last 15 years where it went from old school strains and limited numbers to just constantly compounding opportunities as a consumer, because growers have the freedom and the ability now to do that. To phenohunt and to test. And it's because of people like you, Ben, and FREDDY'S FUEGO who push it forward. And even now, you're not doing that for necessarily the most commercial of interests, because it's not cost effective to grow 100 plants and keep one. So you're doing it for love. You're doing it because you care about the plant, and that you believe that love will turn into a product that you can be commercially viable. But that whole process is all love and risk, and not the uncertainty, and that we're in a beautiful time for.
He's an artist.
So true.
Like I say, Wes, you work your whole life to become an overnight success, and when that one strain that you find goes viral, bro, you're the next Sherbinski.
It's crazy how one strain can travel around the whole world, not just the country.
Yeah.
And just be that much louder than everything else. The way that the lemon cherry gelatos or permanent markers or, that
Cookies.
when Burner came out and dropped cookies, I mean, who have I looked up to and like followed? It's like Burner, Jungle Boys, Seed Junkie. I call that the triangle, the trifecta. But that cookies drop just changed everything to how are you branding and presenting flavors. And I think certain people take it to one level who are a part of like, hey, I'm a breeder or hey, I'm a retailer. It's really interesting when you meet people in the industry that touch just seed to sale every facet of the plant and are passionate about every single step. And you get to start seeing flavors come from those individuals. Whether or not it becomes famous or not, now I'm getting a small tasting menu from an incredible chef where I'm at like a Tom Douglas 13 meal, tasting.
13 course.
Like, let me try all these different things. And why does the chef, why did he choose, the blue cookies cross Georgia pie for his representation of a cookie strain in Washington State Cannabis,
Right.
Like, why did I think that was the best version of cookies for my lineup? You can only sell so much cannabis, per farm. And so how do you diversify your portfolio to be the best genetics that touch the most people in the best ways? And for me, that's always been like trying to break down that plant stable into a variety of flavors and look at what are the most popular flavor categories and then try to find incredible phenos that nobody else has. Because if you pheno hunt something, it's yours and nobody else has it. If you buy a cut, you're just sharing something and it's dope. Like, to the people who can sell the same cut, like a permanent marker to 10,000 people. Well, that's powerful because you just had 10,000 people. You did all the work for all 10,000. I prefer to try to find something myself and share it with the public. And if you go through thousands of things, you find a handful.
It's like capturing lightning in a bottle. And now we're going to test your skill because you got to play Name That Strain.
Let's go.
All right.
Strain.
His confidence, just let's go.
Yes.
He's ready.
I think we played this one last time too, dude, and you were all about it.
Oh, shit, man. Now the pressure's on.
Pressure's on, dog. You got to follow up that success with more success. That's show business, baby.
Hey,
That's growing weed.
Otherwise, you're yesterday's news. Exactly, Wes.
Very hard.
Thank God for that Elon Musk Neuralink chip.
You're a cyborg.
Are you hooked in? Are you hooked in?
I'm in the zone.
How well do you know your grow? All right, number one, name that strain, brother. This is a hybrid strain made from a genetic cross between apple fritter and red pop. This strain is not to be confused with the bland apple variety, as it offers a complex and satisfying flavor profile that combines grape, licorice, and kush.
Red delicious, man.
He's right. He's absolutely right.
Its terpene profile is
Wow.
like, I could smell that terp with blindfold, man. God, I love that plant.
That's apple fritter crossed with red pop. Guy knows his shit.
Yeah, no kidding.
Complementary. Two parents that like really work with each other to create a progeny better than the parents. Because that's the goal.
Yeah.
Is to create something that's better than both
Yes, say that.
All right, number two. This one is a tantalizing haze of citrus zing wrapped in sweet indulgence, which combines the zest of oranges with a cocoa-rich essence. Bred by exotic genetics, expect the flavors of chocolate, orange, sweet citrus, pine, and cloves.
Oh man, that's chocolate orange cream.
He's absolutely correct.
Son, you are good at this.
That's impressive.
How about that, Tori?
That's impressive. My mind is blown.
That
Freddy's
chocolate
FUEGO.
orange cream has mint chocolate chip in it. It has Agent Orange in it. It has cookies and cream in it.
Damn.
Like it has some very tantalizing terpenes.
Needs to write weed
Where?
reviews.
Yeah,
Totally.
Yeah.
Where do you find this strain?
The cross is chocolate oranges.
It sells
and
out so
cookies and
quick
cream.
when it goes.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
okay. Exotics, you said?
You can find it at FREDDY'S.com.
We're in over 200 stores in Washington State. It's hard to keep up with the drops because we do such small amounts of like each individual strain. The strain comes out, and you really got to be talking to your local shop and be in tune with the bud tenders because they always have that inside Freddy's info.
And now number 3.
Shout
And now it's
outs.
time for dessert. By mixing classic gelato and sherbet with the very flavorful and expressive Nerds strain, expect a flavor here that's fruity, gassy, and sweet with a gelato dominant profile. The purple buds are dense, frosty, and expect it to pack a punch.
That's that iceberry gelato.
That's not right.
Oh, so close. Wait, do you want a
That's
second guess?
iceberry.
Iceberry. Yeah, we changed the name for marketing. that was in one of those executive meetings that got a little bit stony, and all of a sudden the name changed to
Great name, bro.
Iceberry.
We'll give him the right answer. He knew the strain. He knew the strain.
He
It's
was so
iceberry
close.
gelato crossed with Nerds.
It's kind of like when your kids like try to like change things when they're like teenagers or something, and you're like, what? Like, no, I named you Apollo. You're not now Low.
Yeah.
Like, you're Apollo.
If you want to discover cannabis news, reviews, entertainment, and culture, and explore every Leaf magazine at your convenience, search leafmagazines.com. It's that simple. Coming up in our second segment, we'll dive into how variety is the spice of life, and cannabis is no different. We'll get another spin of AJ's wheel, and we'll kick it all off with another episode of Who Does That? With Tori D. Leaf Life continues in just a moment.
These products have intoxicating effects and may be habit-forming.
Marijuana can impair concentration, coordination, and judgment.
Do not operate a vehicle or machinery under the influence of this drug.
There may be health risks associated with consumption of these products.
For use by adults 21 and older.
Keep out of the reach of children.
Some of the wardrobe, including Ricker Wes's sick lids, provided by Grassroots California. Check out the dopeness at grassrootscalifornia.com.